Roughly 10 years ago, I discovered YouTube and immediately fell in love with it. After fumbling around for a few months and trying a few things, I started to make my own videos, messing around mainly in Grand Theft Auto, and once I thought I got the hang of it, I released an epic special on the destruction in Tony Hawk games. It was more akin to a music video than anything else really, but from that point on, going forward and discovering the game review genre, I always wanted to pay some kind of tribute to the Tony Hawk series. Fast forward to a time when I was starting to take this seriously, I had a few goes, but they were all pretty rough, pretty stock standard stuff, and didn't really do it for me. Underground is a game I was supposed to review in November of 2016, but due to all the stuff going on behind the scenes at the time, I passed it up. In May of 2017, I started thinking about all the channel specials other people do, and how they really don't feel that special. For one, they're normally month specials, so you get 4 weeks of slightly related topics, all produced the same way, no differently than any normal month. And God, Zelda, Mario, Crash, who gives a fuck? I'm sick to death of hearing the same shit over and over again from the same clones, just under some stupid generic branding. However, I started brainstorming stupid names to myself when I landed on Tony Hawktober and laughed myself to pieces. That's when I knew I had to do this. But a month of Tony Hawk reviews would be total overkill and would get boring very quickly, as there isn't a whole lot to say on most of them. It doesn't help that all the fun titles to look at exist at the end of the series' lifespan, so I did a week special instead. 5 videos in 5 days, already more than you get in a monthly special, each video with something different about it, and it's a good excuse to just smash through a series and get to the good stuff. So this first year was really just to get shit done and set up for following years to come. But since the games we're looking at this year all hold a strong nostalgic grip on myself, what better example of a channel special than going all out on the branding? I'll be honest, above everything else, I recreated each game's unique branding for myself as a massive mark for the franchise. So let's start there, as it was arguably the biggest part of the entire project. The first thing I worked on was the Neversoft logo for Underground 2. This is simple in concept. Recreate the background, rip a few assets from the original source, and add myself into it. But this was the most draining part of the entire project. I can't do 3D animation or anything like that, so I had to extract the UFO from the original logo frame by frame in Photoshop. This was maybe an 8-hour job, 1 to 2 hours per session over 4 sessions, with the entire project file corrupting halfway through, leading me to have my first of 4 to 5 stress meltdowns over the course of 6 weeks. I had to find a backup file and redo a good quarter of the animation. I almost cancelled the entire thing right out of the gate because I was sick of looking at it, but I got it sorted, and from there on out, they were all a breeze. Every time you see something identical to the games, chances are that I completely ripped it, like the Neversoft eyeball animation and maybe a few smaller details here or there, but a good 80% of all the assets were recreated from scratch by myself based on the originals. I had to do game logos and change them to say Square-Eyed Jack, as I've been doing all year. I had to make images to keyframe and animate across the screen, backgrounds, graffiti layers, graffiti stencils, I shot props on green screen, and just a whole bunch of other stuff. It's insane. My favourite by far is for Underground. Shot entirely on green screen with accurate timing, all original assets aside from the eyeball at the end. This was about 3 to 4 hours, which is why I like it so much. Half the time as Thug 2, but 10 times more amazing as a finished product. You can see a lot clearer in this version without effects or camera zoom exactly what's taking place in this scene. As far as recreating the intros of the games themselves, Underground is also my favourite. In the same way Underground started something different, Hawktober was relaunching the reviews of this series, which is why I added in shots of previous Tony Hawk episodes, just to really represent how far the channel has come in almost 3 years since I first covered Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. But the worst of all these intros is easily Project 8. Like I said, I'm not an animator, so the entire Neversoft intro is just the original, right from the game. I brainstormed potential things I could have done to recreate it, but nothing was good or worth the time it would take, so I just left it. And while the opening was fine enough at first, numerous copyright problems led me to sing the song, which, I mean, people liked it, but it just doesn't compare for me personally. That's one thing that was a worry going into this, was copyright and advertiser-friendly strikes, but luckily, this song was the only problem and singing it prevented any further issues. As for Downhill Jam, I always really loved this intro with the silhouettes, and such a great song. It was cut a bit short, again to dodge any issues, but it's still good. Really sets the tone for the entire video, I think. A change of pace to end the week off. A big thing for me doing this was to make sure each video had something different going on. Whether it be the narrative, the video's format and how it was shot, or what impression I wanted it to leave on people. Underground was simple. I wanted people to be hyped about the week to come. I wanted to get across the vision I had to the audience so that they'd get what I was going for, and simply, it was just this series saying, I'm back in action. Underground 2 was, if anything, the normal Square Eye Jack video out of the 5. We're looking at the game, there are some gags thrown in, but nothing overly mental, and of course, 6 out of 10. American Wasteland is an interesting one though. A lot of people were confused by the decision to shoot it on green screen, so allow me to explain this. My overarching point in the video is that the game feels unnatural and false, so I wanted my live action to feel the same way. The fact that people felt kind of put off and strange about it means I did my job right. I wanted people to come out of the video feeling a little confused. The problem with that though is that my explanation of that joke in the video was cut. The original plan was to run into frame on green screen so that it very clearly looked fake and terrible, but because it looked fucking terrible, I cut it from the video. I wasn't going to let my stupid experiment ruin a project I'd really been building up for almost 10 years. So yeah, it still did the job, but it wasn't all it could be, which is fine. I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. Moving on though, Project 8 is actually the very first thing I shot, which is why the quality is a lot messier in that one. I'm shocking at dubbing audio, so the wind noise is awful in the final product. But clearly, the story in this video was discussing the transformation between console generations, what I grew up with and the superior version. This is the only video of the week where I looked at more than one game and gave multiple scores. It was the hardest to write for, as I didn't want to go over a whole lot in the PS2 version just to repeat myself later on. That means I kind of rant for a few minutes, get fired up, break the game and give a low score without much explanation, to then go on and kind of justify my actions. The game breaking scene in this was fucking terrible, I apologise. Again, being the first video I shot, I really wasn't into it at this stage. I had to quickly get the shot and originally wanted to pogo through it, which didn't look good and wasn't really working. So I just kind of flipped it up and caught it, but when I threw it into the ground, it fucking disintegrated. It looked so stupid, so I tried to snap it from like a primo position, but it was just too late. I didn't have time to get anything better, so it just had to do, unfortunately. And the final video, Downhill Jam, was easily the most fun I've had filming, not just for Tony Hawk, but in a long while. I contacted my old friend from college to come along and help out. The story here is that Jack talks a big game, but can't back it up. He acts like he's gonna skate down the hill with ease, but really doesn't want to. When he's at the top standing on the board, it starts to roll against his will and has no choice but to live up to his word. Much like the fun, silly arcade style the game showcases, I wanted this video to be really short but really sweet, and this ending to the video was clearly inspired in part by classic Looney Tunes and old, clearly fake filmmaking techniques. The problem was this hill. After having some time to get used to the skateboard, I was confident I could stay on the thing long enough to get the shots I needed, but it wasn't the case. Yes, I did technically attempt to skate down this fucking snake run, and while I could get on, I couldn't stay on, no matter how hard I tried. Then my anxiety kicked in, and that was the end of it. Halfway down, however, there is a nice stretch of flat road, so I shot a lot of stuff there. Obviously not the entire thing, because that wouldn't make much sense, but we got what we could on location, then I did the rest on green screen. Even though it's fake as shit on purpose, like it's obvious inspiration, I think that's what makes it funny, so whatever. Sometimes it's about conveying the story to the audience over it actually looking believable. If you can't watch this and get inside my head to see the vision and what I was going for, then there is a problem. Overall, it was super fun to shoot these videos down at the skate park and on the big hill. Considering all the buses I missed and unproductive days when I just couldn't shoot due to a number of reasons, the stress was certainly worth it in the end, I think. The original idea for the week was to have a story arc across all the Hawktobers to come. It would have been me trying to learn how to skateboard, and by the end of the franchise, when all the games are covered, I'd finally be able to do it. I'm sure there is a chance that could still happen, but I decided against it purely because I could be shit at skating forever. For the entire 5 videos, 6 weeks or so of work went into this. Of a night after working on videos, the first 2 weeks would be me playing through the games. I then had a solid week of script writing, 2 weeks of shooting, then that final week of editing, and the payoff was perfect. With everyone showing up each day for a new video, the energy and enthusiasm was awesome and actually felt special. People were really into it, as I was myself, because it was different. And when all is said and done, the people who support this channel get an entire week's worth of highly produced content they expect, then it's business as usual the following week without missing a beat. While other review channels struggle to get something normal out every week or every few weeks, taking time off in the process, I figured I'd try to prove why a lot of them aren't working hard enough to keep the spots they've been given, in my opinion. So just to cap everything off and really put the workload into perspective here, that 2-second logo was an hour's work. But anyway, I hope you learned something from this video or just found it entertaining. Of course, a big thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon for keeping this train rolling through this project and all the new ones to come. Of course, it's a great way to support the channel if you're interested and gain access to some cool perks by helping me live this dream. And as usual, if you have any questions about the project, be sure to let me know with a comment down below, followed with liking, subscribing and sharing the video. I'm Square Eyed Jack and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.